Oh, crickety crack.
Don't talk back.
Oh. Yo, mama. Are we live? Screaming yo, mama at the audience. Sending data.
Beep,
Data
boop.
is being sent.
Beep, boop, boop.
Somebody check with Pat. Hey, Pat, are we live? If we're live, tell us, Pat. And Ian, you're connected to Pat?
Oh, I'm so connected to Pat. You have no idea.
Thank you for sharing.
Getting creepy. We are live. Cool. All right, roll it.
The history of the Gallic lands is one of struggle, punctuated by moments of sheer brilliance.
Tartan is Scotland's gift to the world, and it is your personal heritage story. Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome to Kilts and Culture. I am Rocky. That's Eric.
Yo!
Today, special treat from our good friend, Kevin Henderson. So good I had to read his name on the back of the bottle. We are drinking the Glenlivet Founders Reserve. So, I'm kind of excited about this one. I won't lie, I opened it and smelled it, and it smelled very pretty.
Smelled very pretty.
Smelled delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right. So, and on the other side of the area, whatever that is, over there.
The Great Divide.
Yes, the Great Divide. We have Ian on the mic.
Da-da-da.
What's up?
So these-
MC Ian into his house.
We
or
have-
something.
Here's the problem. We have
You
new
don't know how to
glasses,
measure.
and I don't know how to measure. So we're either going to
I
get
see.
like
Yeah,
not
that's-
nearly enough or way too much.
Double it for me, bartender.
All right.
I'll drink alone.
I was all by myself. All right, and oh, it's moist. All right, Ian. There you go. And what tartan do you have on today, Mr.
It's
Ian?
showing up that well. I'm going to lean into it here. I've got the Appalachian folklore tartan.
Don't wave that at me.
Again?
Well, actually, come back. Hold on.
Yeah, hold on.
Get back here,
You're
pal.
not done yet.
So, for
It's fine. I was going to make you lift your sporran. Just stand erect and lift your sporran up. There we go.
the we've had a lot of queries very recently, so we're going to kind of do a on the down low announcing it to the world, but not really going to be any marketing of it. We're going to do another real quick, real short pre-sale for Appalachian Folklore. Send an email to sales@usakilts.com. It should be up tomorrow, essentially, and ready to order stuff. We're going to essentially cut it off mid-August. So if you're watching the edited version of this show, a few weeks from now,
Might be too late.
maybe too late, or right around
Yeah.
that time. So
Yeah.
yes, indeed, sales@usakilts.com. Send us an email, and we'll send you a link where you can order it now if you want it now. Cool. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Ian.
All right. So you have Ian, do you have the tasting notes? They brought those in?
I do.
All right.
I do.
Give me a moment to get settled in here.
All right, you can get settled.
Glass
in.
is
I'll allow it.
heavy.
It is.
I'm not used to this.
Good. It's quality. It's good quality glass.
It's heavier than yours.
Build your arm muscles. All right.
Okay. The aroma has delicate notes of citrus fruit, notably orange.
I'm noting
Yeah.
that it's orange. Citrus notes. Anything else for the aroma?
That's it.
That's it.
Short and sweet.
That's it.
Damn. Okay.
Get into some more of the aspects here, but the finish is long, creamy, and smooth.
Smooth. No, I would agree with the creamy bit.
Yeah. I don't. If you told me a whiskey or a scotch was creamy, I'd be like, that makes no sense unless you literally add cream to it.
Yeah.
But I buy it.
This has got like a little bit of sweetness and a little bit of like viscosity. Like if you drink
Yeah, I think the
milk
creaminess
or
is
cream or something.
Yeah, the cream is it's a mouthfeel thing.
Yeah.
I'm getting
coating.
very strong vanilla kind of
Yeah.
vibe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Getting vanilla.
Getting a little bit of vanilla. I'm getting a hint of citrus, not a ton, but a hint. But the vanilla, like the creaminess, the cream hits it for me.
A little bit of pepper on the back end.
They're saying the taste is fruity notes of zesty oranges and pears with a hint of toffee and apples. So they're not saying vanilla, but I kind of agree with you.
I feel like it's vanilla.
I think that comes from the creaminess too, though.
Okay.
I'm going home and bake some cookies with this whiskey.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to pour a touch I don't think I
Gotta
necessarily
be
need
careful. Yeah, I don't
water
know
in it,
either, but
but I
just
want to pour a touch just to see what happens.
for science.
A few more notes. We select whiskey from a variety of traditional aged oak casks from
Told
which
you
our
it's a blend.
makers combine with American first fill oak casks that haven't been used to mature whiskey before. The selective use of these casks provides a smooth, creamy sweetness that mingles with the delicate flavors and complex fruity notes already present in the whiskey. And we feel it pairs
not
well
very
with
fruity to
salmon,
me.
which I
With
think I also
salmon?
agree with.
Salmon?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of light. It
It is
doesn't have a
light.
whole lot of. It doesn't have a whole lot of punch any one direction.
Yeah. I'd say it's a good one. Good one for somebody who hasn't had Scotch before.
Literally, you
It's a
stole
good-
the
it's a
word
good-
out of
good
words out
intro.
of my mouth.
It's a good intro
Yes.
whiskey.
Yes,
Yeah.
this would be very good intro whiskey. I have no idea how much this costs. What this one costs. Ian, if
It
you
is
could
affordable.
use the Google machines.
As I recall, it is a more affordable one.
Okay.
So.
But
Glenlivet Founders
nice.
Reserve.
Yeah, Glenlivet Founders
nice.
Reserve. Yeah, it's.
Mhm.
Yeah,
like it.
I'm like very pleasantly surprised by this.
Yeah.
Glenlivet's like regular, like 10 or 12 years was my like intro to Scotch. So I
Yeah.
have to agree with that statement.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
it's not punching any one direction. It's not overpowering in any way. It's very smooth. It's got a good mouthfeel to it. I like it.
Yeah. He's good.
Price.
I'm seeing a variety of answers to this, everywhere from $30 to $60.
Okay.
Yeah. 40 was the average I thought I saw.
Yeah, so 40, 45 bucks. That's
Good value.
I'd say that's
really
punching
good
above
for
its
the-
weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's a 60 for my money. That's a $60 or $70 bottle. Not super complex, but it's good. It's good drinking whiskey.
Yeah, I don't get this fruitiness they're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe the toffee vanilla, but
Yeah.
tiny little bit of oak, but not really.
Yeah. Not a ton of the wood, but it's
So it's mild.
it's fine because it doesn't burn me. All right, Ian. Scale of 1 to 10. What do you give it?
I have to say, I gotta rate it quite high based on the value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going a good 7.5.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair. Good score.
funny.
Good score.
That's funny. I was gonna say 7.2.
Okay.
So
All right. I'm gonna go 7-8. Where if we're above 8, I would drive somewhere to go get this. Below 8, I'd absolutely have it. Or if I'm in the store, I'd pick it up. I'm putting it closer to the 8 because if I knew someone was coming over that had never had whiskey before, never had Scotch, wasn't a Scotch drinker, I would buy this for them to try. So yes, indeed, very nice.
lucky 7.
Kevin, thank you very much. Nice, pleasantly
Yeah,
surprised.
thanks, Kevin.
No, absolutely. All right.
What a happy way to start our evening.
Yeah, indeed. All right, boys and girls. As always, we are about your humble servants here to answer whatever questions you have about kilts and/or culture. So, put those down in the comments. Eric, if you would, while we are waiting for people to throw things in the comments. Give me a question. Yeah, you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Okay. Tim and Jenny. Hey, guys. Hope you're doing well. Asked, what is the right way for a woman to wear kilts and other Highland accessories? For instance, do women wear flashes, or do they ever use a sporran? What about a belt?
So, what do women wear? Can they wear? How do they wear it? Da 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 da.
Diddly.
Deedly deedly dee.
I think the fact they asked about the accessories was a little more interesting.
So it depends on who you're talking to and the kind of context that it's in. Are you looking for a traditional type answer? Or are you looking for contemporary? Are you looking for a kind of middle of the road? It depends on the age of the individual and or their comfort level with showing these potentially. So traditional would be, calf length, kilted skirt, something a little bit below the knee, a little bit more conservative, and a blouse, maybe a sash, something like that.
Well, that's, yeah.
Yep, that's standard
formal
answer.
side.
Indeed. If you're looking for something a little more younger, youthful kind of vibe to it, then a mini kilt, something above the knee. Or if you're looking for something, or if you're an older lady who doesn't really want to have something too matronly looking, but doesn't feel appropriate wearing something above the knee, then essentially a midi kilt or a man's kilt, something to the knee, can be done as well. I'll let you jump in on accessories.
jump all over those accessories. So yeah, basically, essentially, if you're going traditional, then the accessories mentioned in the question really don't apply. They're not part of the standard outfit. However, we do have more and more women who are going for a more andro kind of a look, gender neutral, or who just like the look and feel of a man's fashion staples, include everywhere from the to the knee length to using a belt or a sporran. I'd say the most popular items I've seen are the using a sporran worn off to the side because it's a pocket and it's kind of more fun than taking your regular bag with you. Belts, I've only ever seen women in like a festival setting using a fashion belt, not a traditional man's big honk and kilt belt and buckle like this, but rather something that's more proportionate to their body dimensions and usually a little bit more fun. So it could be like a casual kind of a jeans belt with a cool buckle, or it could be any old-fashioned belt that they've gotten from anywhere. Flashes I've seen once or twice, not too often, but occasionally, like if especially it's borrowing from the bagpiper vibe. I've occasionally seen women using flashes, but I wouldn't say it's very common.
Yeah, it's more of a masculine kind of look.
Yeah, but it's
kilters and flashes.
Yeah, I think I've seen women wear knee socks, sometimes with a shorter kilt like a mini, but not usually typical kilt hose with flashes. There's nothing that says you can't do it. I'm just telling you what I've seen out in the wild, so to speak.
Yeah, it depends on the event that you're going to as well and how you want to present yourself. So if you want something a little bit more traditional because you're going to a burn supper or a St. Andrew's dinner or something like that, then you might want to lean a little bit more conservative in your dress. If you're going to a festival, you're going to be outside, it's going to be warm all day outside, then you might want to wear something a little bit shorter so you have a little bit more airflow and it's not you don't have a kilted skirt or a hostess skirt all the way down the ankles. And it's just it's your own fashion. So there's the heritage angle to it as well as the fashion angle to it. And you can do both. You can blend both, depending on the event and the appropriate accessories for the event.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool. All right. Hope that helps, Mr. Ian. And I hope you made it. That was the gent that stopped in the store a couple weeks ago, Ian. So I hope you made it back home well.
Excellent.
Yes. All right, Ian. What do we got out there on the interwebs?
Yes. I've got a question here from Adam T. Burns. It's his first time joining us live, as it happens. He says, do you foresee sporrans becoming slightly taller in order to accommodate today's larger cell phones?
I just got a flip phone, so I'm not the person to ask.
I would say if cell phones get any bigger, then potentially. And I'll be the one driving it because I like a nice tall cell phone. I have a Samsung something plus 7962. I don't know what the hell that is. I used to have a Samsung Note, and now I have the Galaxy something. But mine fits in my Sporran. Lid will close, but it is all the way up
barely.
at it's just barely. Yep. If it gets any, and you'll actually see it, kind of print on the bottom where it'll be like pushing out the gusset on the very bottom of the Sporran. So if cell phones get any taller, I'd literally say a half to 3/4 of an inch taller, then yes, something has to give at that point. So, and I would probably be the one to lead the charge because I don't want to wear a big belt pouch thing to have to store my cell phone on my belt.
Right.
I'd rather just keep it in the Sporran, keep a nice traditional minimalist kind of look to my outfit. I don't know if I would necessarily just go deeper though. It might look a little odd.
Yeah.
Where if it's too long and like ovally, it might look a little weird. Now a hunting Sporran could be an option.
Maybe.
They're going to be a little bit taller, but it's open across the entire top, so you may see the very tops of the cell phone sticking out if it gets too much deeper.
No, I got it. What's going to happen is that horsehair and goat hair sporrans are going to make a huge comeback, but instead of it just being like a regular size sporran and the hair coming down below it, sporran's going to be all the way down to here. So
Yes.
it's like, excuse me.
Yeah, you put your whole arm in. Yeah, exactly.
Pull out your pool cue. It's like your croquet mallet. You can
As you do.
I can't imagine anything being less comfortable than a sporran that would be as long as the hair on a horsehair sporran. That would be so ridiculous.
There is an issue with how heavy it would end up being.
Exactly.
As well.
Exactly.
It's the bigger your sporran, the more stuff you're going to try to jam in it, and the more stuff you jam in it, the more it weighs. If you have a bad back, bad hips, that kind of thing, wearing a sporran for me over a full day, if I have a whole bunch of stuff in my sporran, it will actually end up hurting my back more by the end of the day. So I wouldn't go too much bigger for that reason alone.
Yeah, I actually, I'm going to take a counterpoint to this a little bit. I don't think that it's going to be that much of a problem. I don't think there's going to be much impetus for sporran makers to change the average size that they use, because I think the populace in general is getting tired of the oversized phones. I have a Motorola Rosa, which is flipped like a communicator. But I've also seen larger phones that open up like a book. I forget. I don't know if it's Samsung or who else.
Samsung and Google have them.
Yeah,
and I'll
exactly.
expound on that in
and
a
I
sec.
think those are probably going to become more prevalent for people who want the large screen, and they aren't necessarily taller. They just have the option of opening up wider. So I think the technology will take care of the problem before we have to worry about it in Highland World. I do also personally, I don't mind belt pouches. I occasionally will use a belt pouch with my phone or other stuff because it's just too many things in my sporran just becomes inconvenient. I don't like having to dig around too much. But I'm also the same person who has put my keychain onto the chain of my sporran. You know, not for an occasion where I want to look nice, obviously, but just clipping your keys on here is easier than having it inside the sporran. So
I will for the flip phones, the larger ones. I looked at those as well. Here is the driver of that question in my mind. The Samsung one is just as tall as my phone, but it's only like that wide. It's a skinny, but it's still just as tall.
Okay.
The Google one is like 3/4 inch or so shorter. It just opens up wider. So if the industry kind of standardizes on a particular aspect ratio when the phone is open, then yes. And most people that have those phones say that they don't open it up all that much. They just use it as a half phone anyway, except if they're going to do something like sit there and surf the web or watch a movie or something. So, yeah, it depends on how the technology evolves. I think that's a very good, valid point.
it's an interesting thought, and I could see people doing custom solutions if it's something really bothers them with something they specifically themselves own. But I don't feel like it's going to be something that's going to drive the sporran makers I know, like Greg, I don't see ever saying, "What? You want me to do what?"
No, I don't think I don't think Greg would do it, or they would necessarily do it of their own. But someone like us, I could see saying, "Okay, let's offer this and this sporran, and we're gonna, this is a brand new design, going to be a little bit deeper, a little bit wider for either extra large hands or for extra large phones, that kind of thing." If it becomes a problem,
I think that would be the answer, is if there would be other reasons why you'd decide to do a larger sporran.
Yeah.
Not just a cell phone.
Yep.
It'd be other factors, like you said.
Yep. Then you may need to gusset deeper and all kinds of other things as well. But no, that's a good question.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's a neat one. We haven't had something like that before. Good on you. All right, Eric.
Good on you.
Yeah, indeed. Good on you, my bud. My dude.
Goodness upon thee.
Yes.
And also with you. Brian Taylor. This is going to be a thinking one. A little bit.
Are we able to think?
I don't know. If you had to choose just one tartan to give the broadest possible color palette for matching with all of the rest of your wardrobe, what would you choose? He says he personally loves the idea of minimalism, even though he realizes it's kind of heresy in the world of kilts.
Indeed.
But one tartan that would give you all the possible options for matching all the other stuff that you ever wear in your life. If you had to own one kilt,
One kilt, all occasions.
just one fix, just
All
one
right,
kilt.
Ian, we'll bring you in for this as well.
Excellent, because I do have an answer.
Ian, without an answer, would be scary.
I didn't have
all
an
right.
answer to the last question that,
Okay.
that Eric had posed.
Okay. So, one tartan, one kilt for all occasions. Where would you go with it?
I'm going to sound like a shill here, but I honestly believe this answer. It's kilts and culture. I think it goes with so many colors. I'll wear a black shirt with it. I'll wear a maroon shirt with it. Gray and brown both work. I've seen people pair it with a lot of non-traditional colors that aren't found in the tartan at all as well and seem to pull it off. Colton posted in the group the other day is wearing a green shirt with it, and that seems very counterintuitive to me. It wasn't an amazing match by any means, but it worked well enough.
Was it like an olive green or a green
No,
green?
it was, and it wasn't bottle green either. It was Kelly green would be the closest, but it was a little brighter than that.
Okay.
I've worn pink with it, and it worked well in my opinion. And a lot of people have.
I think I see where you're going.
Yeah, it's a very versatile tartan, and that's what I like about it for this question specifically.
Okay. Okay. I think weathered tartans, they're to that point. I think the olive green, like we have like an olive green USA Kilts Lion shirt, and that one works well with Kilts and Culture as well, even though there's no olive in it because it has that neutral sort of earthy, natural kind of color palette. So I like your idea on that, and I think KNC has gold, has a red, has a white, and it has enough colors in it that you can pull from it. I think I like that answer, Eric.
Yeah, I think that I don't think I can improve on that answer. I have one thought, but yeah, I think because it's like wearing a leather jacket at that point. You know, you have these very subdued earth tones that no color they're there, but they're not like in your face popping. So you don't have to worry about them clashing. It just it can fade more easily. I think weathered tartans and KNC is a good option.
The KNC works better than just a generic weathered tartan too, though, because it has just the right numbers of pop to it. It has that non-traditional red compared to other weathered tartans, and I think that helps it a lot.
Non-traditional red.
Yeah, a darker, more of a blood red, magenta-ish kind of red versus like this salmon-y kind of pinkish red here.
I'd choose Black Watch.
Okay.
Because A, there's very little color in it to begin with to clash with anything. B, it is so ubiquitous and so famous that it's kind of like the blue jeans of kilts. So you could wear it, you could almost wear it with anything, and people are just like, okay, it's a kilt, and it just kind of registers on that level. Again, it's very subdued. It's very dark. So if you have another color popping on the top half of your body, it's not going to be distracting because there's nothing there to distract with. It's just
okay. I see where you're going. I interpreted the question more color palette wise and colorful wise. Although
I did that specifically to point out there are other factors at work.
Yes, indeed. There are two, and I'm not. There are two that come to mind for me, and I'm not saying them because I designed both of them. The two that I would say are the two that I would be like, okay, this is going to be, if you're going to match a lot of different stuff, Grand Canyon. You don't know what it looks like yet, but I'm telling you, this is going to match a lot of different stuff. It's a very colorful one.
It's the opposite end of the spectrum.
It is very much the opposite end of the spectrum from Eric's. No, but the other one because there's so much you can pull out with it. The one that I go to, and there's a lot of different things that go with it. That it's kind of become one of my very, very much go-to tartans is Nordic Heritage. I love it because there's so much gray in it, and the marled gray makes it kind of neutral, and the blue in it is an icy kind of like neutrally kind of blue. So but it does have a little bit of red, a little bit of gold, a little bit of white.
Yeah, it's worked pretty well.
Yeah, I like the depth and the contrast to it versus Black Watch, which doesn't have a lot of contrast.
Right.
I prefer tartans with a little bit more contrast. So that's kind of where I would go. Is probably Nordic Heritage.
Unless you don't like blue.
It's fair. It's fair unless you don't like blue. The other thing I would point out is for viewers at home. I'd start with what's in your closet. What is your favorite color? What are the colors that you wear on a regular basis? Do you wear all black shirts all the time? Great. Any freaking tartan will do. Do you love the color blue? Do you love the color red? Do you love the color purple? Like if you're a purple guy, you're a freaking purple guy. There's no loving or hate. You either love purple or hate it. So I would start there and then kind of pick a tartan based on that. I would say, okay, this is the colors that I tend to wear the most. What tartan would go best with it, and then work backwards at it. Agree? Disagree?
Yeah,
Thoughts?
I do. I think purple is a good test colors. Like if the tartan looks okay with purple, it's probably going to look better than okay with a lot of other colors. Like I'm trying to imagine Kilts and Culture with a purple shirt right now, and like, yeah, I guess it's okay.
Depends on the purple. If it's a dark, deep, rich purple, royal purple,
like an
so to speak.
eggplant.
No, if it's something like an eggplant, maybe, because it's got a lot of brown and eggplant kind of thing. if it's a really really light wispy purple, then yes, that
lavender.
could almost lavender, that could work with it. Yeah. Isle of Skye is another good answer. I just thought of that.
Yeah.
Now we're
Yeah.
talking about purple.
True.
Isle of Skye is brown. It has 2 shades of green. It has purple in it. That's another one that could work with a lot of different stuff. The nice soft pastel-y ones are ones that I think could work with a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think we're still coming to the same conclusion that modern palette is probably the most problematic. Weathered is the easiest.
Except for Black Watch. That's modern.
But you know, but other than
yeah.
that, I think that modern color palette tartans are probably the most difficult to deal with.
Although I wouldn't necessarily do it based on color palette. I think dealing with a color palette outside of weathered, I think weathered you get a pass. I think Ian's right. But with color palettes like modern or ancient or things like that, it's less. I'm not meaning this in an insulting way at all. It's less interesting versus a color palette, not a non-color palette, a tartan where you're picking a particular shade of green, a particular shade of blue because they work well together, not because it's what's supposed to be done according to the mills. Like what you have on there, the Alaska State Seal one. That's not a standard blue. There's 2 shades of green. There's an ancient green and a modern green. It's very different. I wouldn't give this a color palette. I'd say it's its own
I think
thing.
that's the thing. I think the more modern a tartan is, the less likely it pays attention to those categories.
Yes,
That's
agreed.
at least that's how we roll here. So
Yeah.
we never mentioned what tartans we were wearing when Ian came out to show us the Appalachian folklore.
That's right. That's right.
Alaska State Seal.
Yep. Eric has on
One of my
Alaska State
absolute
Seal,
favorites.
and I have on the McDonald Clan Ranald weathered tartan today.
Weathered.
Yes, weathered.
Weathered.
Yes, very good. Anyway, I hope that helps. Sanj. All right. Was that you or Ian?
That was me.
Ian,
Andrew Grunwald asks,
just right in there. I didn't get a yes like I normally get. Yeah. Okay. Andrew Grunwald.
Sporran chains. I prefer leather over chain. Is a leather chain suitable for formal occasions?
A leather chain?
Does he mean a
I
strap?
think he means just a strap.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's less bling. So we're talking sporran strap versus sporran chain. So I have on a sporran strap. I usually wear a sporran strap. You have on a chain? Yeah, yours is
chain.
dark. But
Antique.
antiqued. Yeah, Eric has on a sporran chain today. Yeah, you can wear a sporran strap or a sporran chain for formal. I would say the sporran chain gives it a little something extra. A little more bling to it.
Yeah.
You can have fancy sporran chains that are actually like either Figaro
Plackets.
links or plackets or things like that. Like the old ones. Is it Figaro link? Is that the type of link where it's like a long oval and then 2 short or 3 short and then a long?
I don't know what the name for that is.
I think it's Figaro. My
Figaro, as in Figaro.
yeah, my high
Interesting.
school girlfriend's father was a jeweler, and he got me. I had a nice chain. There's a specific name for it. I think it's Figaro. I
Interesting.
may be wrong. Don't quote me. I'm
never heard that.
63% positive. But there's different.
Those are cool.
Yeah.
You don't see them too often. I mean, I do know some trad kilters who scour the internet to find those as antiques. I'm not sure how many of them are being made fresh.
Yeah.
Currently, and they're similar with the placket sport chains. I think placket sport chains are pretty cool. There's only a few designs out there right now. Maybe it'll make a comeback. But yeah, I mean, if you're in a low light environment, which is what we often talk about with formal occasions, a little bit of bling is a good thing. A chrome sporran chain will give you a little extra, a little extra pop, a little sparkle that goes with the buttons on your Prince Charlie. So that's worth considering. But is a strap verboten? No, it's perfectly fine. So if you're more comfortable with the strap, just make sure it's not your ratty, beat up, stretched out, cracked up strap. Crack strap. Crack
Indeed.
fit.
Yeah. Yeah, and also if you're wearing a dress sporran, there's you're not assuming it's a fur dress sporran, not a leather dress sporran. You're going to have chrome or antique on there. You're going to have fur on the front. You're not really going to see any of the leather. It's made, it's
Right.
leather backing. It's leather backed on the very, very back of the sporran, but you're not going to really see leather unless you have leather tassels or a leather front to it. So in that sense, I would say I would probably go with a sporran chain because you do see metal on it, and then the metal matches it versus a black strap around you.
Conversely, you could also reinforce that it doesn't matter because all the attention is going to be going to the metal on the sporran.
True.
So you don't doesn't matter what the strap is because all the bling is in the cantle.
Good point.
I
Interesting.
wouldn't lose sleep over it.
Yeah.
Is my point.
Yeah. No. It's either one is fine. For me personally, I'd probably do a Sporran chain, but either one is. No one's going to string you up by your toenails just for wearing a leather strap for formal. You're not. I don't think. I would say this. I don't think you're going to see it much. I'd say 98% of the people in the room are probably going to have a Sporran chain or a fancy Sporran chain. So it would definitely be different.
But there are reasons for that too. I think chains are easier to come by when you're buying a Sporran.
Yep.
So,
but it's not the end of the world. So don't lose sleep over it. Put it that way.
Yep.
Cool. Eric.
Oh, it's another thinking one.
This is really good.
It
I
is
really
nice.
do like this.
Did you notice how the nose came out more?
Yeah.
It's in the glass. It got much more of that. Got more of that toffee thing they were talking about.
And it mellowed out a little bit
It did.
over the
It
last
did.
20 minutes or so.
So again,
Kevin
nice.
Anderson, love you, man. This is freaking good.
love you, man.
All right.
David Barr said, if the act of prescription and the Dress Act did not happen after 1746, how do you think things would be different today with kilts and Highland wear in general?
Okay.
Quick refresher for those who don't know, the acts of proscription were basically a series of laws which were imposed upon Scotland, specifically the Highlands, in an attempt to break the morale and the
spirit
and the tribal identity, I would call it, of the Highland clans, to take the wind out of the sails before another uprising happened.
Yeah. Basically take their strongest symbol, i.e. tartan, and the kilt, and then say, yeah, you can't do that anymore. If you want to do that, you have to join the British military.
Right.
So how would it have evolved differently? I would start by saying, okay, so the reason that they put the prescriptions in place was to quell, the spirit of the Highlander. So if they didn't do that, would the symbolism, would the spirit of the Highlander have persisted? So, point one, would there have been another uprising? Is the symbol of the kilt, is the symbology of the kilt strong enough? Inside joke.
Jerk.
Is the symbology of tartan, is the symbolism of the kilt strong enough and powerful enough for people to gather around and say, like, no, we're not done yet? Did that help stamp out the spirit? Would that kindling have relit? So that's a question. And if it did relight, would the Bonnie Prince have died a drunk in a foreign land? So what do you think? We'll start.
Or would he have tried again? Would he have?
Yeah, would he have tried again?
He specifically have tried again.
Yeah.
My sense is that I don't think so. Personally, I don't think so. But that's beside the point to the question in a way.
Let me add to it before we go too deep. I apologize. I'm going to cut you off in half a second because I realized I didn't say the other thing I was in my brain. So if prescriptions didn't happen and the Black Watch was not sent to watch over, and you didn't have to join the military, and there wasn't as much policing of the Highlands. Let's say they just said, okay, we really killed them at Culloden. We're done. Great. They're trounced. That's it. Us done. Job done. Go home. And the English left, and Scots that were on their side kind of dispersed, and then they kind of let the embers to rekindle. And there was less policing. And I'm going to add the policing to the Prescription Act.
Yeah.
Then would it have reignited?
This is different from this question a little bit, so I don't want to spend too much more time on the tangent. But I'm still going to say I think not, honestly, because I think I'm rusty on this stuff. But I'm going to say that my understanding is that the policing was not very consistent.
Correct.
Okay. There was definitely some policing, but I think it got pretty spotty pretty quick. I think the economics of the period trounce every other consideration. I think that basically people were, I mean, the culture was beaten down, but the economics of the Highlands were always kind of fragile anyway. I think they were more into a survival mode and also a seeking opportunity mode. So I think that now if I mean, we're talking like, it's not just the prescriptions, it's almost like if Culloden had never happened, because you have to have the impetus for them imposing a draconian measure like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think that the economics of that time period would have prevented it from happening again. I mean, there was outside foreign support, which I think would have withered. I don't think that the Jacobites would have been able to rally the same kind of support abroad. And I think people were more interested in trying to look out for number one at that point. And you would have had fewer people transported, or you would have had the same number of people transported because that was not related to the prescriptions. But people would be looking for other opportunities.
When were the
is what I'm saying.
clearances?
That's 19th century.
Okay.
So
So
late 18th through 19th century. It was a broad. What was our earliest date, Adam, when we did the piece? Like 1780s.
Some stuff started in the late 1700s, but it
Yeah.
really didn't kick off till the early 1800s.
Yeah.
okay, because I'm going into the same other factors. So at the same time, the Brits were fighting Americans over here, so they depleted their army to send their army over here, their navy as well, over here to the U.S. So would that have been the opportunity potentially for, if they weren't as weakened? Now, if the clearances were at the same time, then there's that issue. You're right, but if the clearances hadn't happened, then would they say like, okay, this is an opportunity because they're weak, because their soldiers are over there as well, and kind of jumped
But
in?
a lot of the soldiers who did go to the colonies were, there was a significant number of Scots too.
That's the point.
So I mean,
So the ones
I
that
don't
are on
know,
the English
man.
side
I don't know.
would have been out of the country. Maybe it was a chance for the Bonnie Prince to come back.
I doubt it.
Okay.
I think he shot his wad financially and in terms of personal charisma and personal power.
Yeah, by the end of
I
his
don't
life,
think-
100%.
Yeah,
he was gone.
certainly. I think
Yeah.
even after Culloden, people's faith in him was mixed. So I
Yeah.
don't know, kind of mid.
Yeah.
You know, here's my thing. I don't think that, and I know you talked about this. You thought about this aspect too, but I'm not sure we would have nearly the oomph behind the revival movement if the prescriptions had not been done, because the romanticism of the lost cause would still be there, but the prescriptions really put an extra layer of mystique and, you know, nobility against tragedy kind of a vibe into it.
Underdog vibe.
The underdog vibe. You wouldn't have the same springback boomerang effect that allowed like the London Society and the peers of Sir Walter Scott and then Sir Walter Scott himself to say, we need to reclaim this. It'd be more like,
yeah, if it
we
wasn't
need to-
unclaimed, it wouldn't need to be reclaimed.
right. So it'd be a harder pitch for them, and therefore, I wonder it could almost have impacted the entire Scottish nationalism movement of the time.
I'll go a step further. The tartans weren't, back in the 1700s, weren't necessarily clan tartans.
Right.
And the whole thing with the King's visit in 1822, Sir Walter Scott, and reclaiming what it was, when the King announced his visit, all the clan chiefs at the time were like, oh, shoot, we got to go get our clan tartan to wear our clan regalia to this big event. So they went to all the different mills, including Wilson's Bannockburn, and said, what do I get? I'm, McAlpin. What tartan should I wear? Or, insert name here. So without that, if that never was a thing, then we may not have the particular clan tartans that were officially worn, adopted, whatever it was, in the 1820s. So if they weren't outlawed, it may have evolved differently. It may have just continued to evolve as a district area fashion kind of thing. Clan
agree.
tartans themselves may not exist. It may have just been, hey, that's a cool pattern. I'm going to get that one for my kilt. And maybe I'll buy it for the household. So there may be some ways it could have evolved into that eventually. Or it may have just been, nah, I just like these 4 patterns. That's what my family members are going to wear, or my servants will wear this, or the people of the village will wear that, or this is the local mill, therefore these are your options. So it may have evolved much slower because you didn't have that moment in time catalyst of Sir Walter Scott and the King's visit. Would the King have even visited, and would that whole thing become a thing? No. I don't think it was, again, to your point, because it doesn't have the same underdog story. It doesn't have the same thumbing your nose at the government and saying, well, I'm going to do a thing, and now I want to have the way my great-grandfather wore the thing, or whatever, because if it wasn't made illegal, if it wasn't, outlawed, then it would have just evolved differently.
I agree. What George would have still visited because his reasons for visiting Scotland were to bolster the legitimacy of his reign. He was wildly unpopular, and going to Scotland was a huge, huge PR move. So he would have gone, but you wouldn't have had the same. Would you have had him dressing up in Highland dress and all that kind of stuff? Maybe not.
Wasn't it also the others in the government basically saying, "Hey, go up there," kind of as a distraction to get him out, so they could do more stuff?
Yeah. He was a bit of a stone in their shoe, and I don't blame them. He was kind of a jerk.
But those flesh-colored tights he wore.
So, I mean, I think that the military would have still had an influence on Highland dress, but I don't know that Highland dress would have had you wouldn't have kickstarted the whole romantic movement the same way. Waverley and Rob Roy might have still been written, so the romantic movement may have still gone on, but I don't know if the clan thing would have. It's really hard to predict. I think there's so many variables other than that.
If it's not outlawed, do people care about it as much?
Exactly.
If I'm told I can't do a thing, that's the thing I'm going to do. Tell me I can't do something, and I'm all in. Now, it's kind of the same concept. It's if it never was outlawed, if you could always wear a thing, I'm going to throw an even bigger question out there. Would tartan even exist at this point as a symbol of Scotland? As a symbol of Scotland. I think it would exist because it's a technology that people do. Plaid shirts would. Grunge would have still happened without flannel shirts. But would tartan exist and have the same meaning imbued in it as it does now without all that?
I think that's the real question, is like how much did you need that
Spark.
Part of the tragedy to get the Romantics going and then the Victorians? Because, I mean, Highland wear is what it is because people decided to make it hugely complicated and more interesting than other countries' national dress. I think you could say that maybe if we didn't have the impetus for Victoria getting psyched about it and stuff, then Scottish national dress would kind of occupy the same space as other countries' national dress, where like you see it at events, folk dance events or whatever, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, but would the tragedy of Culloden and the loss of the rebellion been enough to spur the Romanticism, or how critical were the proscriptions to that mindset? I think is the question. I think it would definitely tipped the scale way in favor of it happening, but how much it did, I'm not completely sure.
Yeah.
I think our ideas are quite plausible.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Here's the bigger question: would we exist as a company? Would this show exist?
Well, we'd sell lederhosen.
Would you be seeing us right now? We're just a figment of your imagination. What if it never happened? Ian, has there been any interesting comments?
How many people are saying we're full of shit?
Boy, I was not ready for that. Nobody said you were full of shit.
Oh, fair. Not yet.
So Marcel Gomez had an interesting comment here, and I think I potentially agree with him a little bit. He says he thinks kilts would have been less relevant in the lowlands, Orkney, Shetland. Tartan would have been less national and more regional.
Yes, yes, 100%.
That was the Sir Walter Scott effect. That my favorite history presenter, insert the name after it, pointed out about 1822 is that we were all Highlanders now. After 1822.
Yep.
That's so absolutely right. Absolutely true.
The king didn't visit the Highlands. He visited Edinburgh.
Right.
So.
But everybody wanted to dress up and do the thing.
I want to be cool like the king in his flesh-colored tights. Insert second reference here. Ian.
What else?
Any other thoughts or comments, or should we move on?
The thought that I had related to this, so if kilts never got banned and people had kept wearing them at least to the degree that they had been prior, do you think there's a chance that it could have just fizzled at some point? Like young people looked at it as, oh, that's that fogey old thing my grandpa wears.
That's what we're arguing. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think
And
that,
then
or
I think at some point it would have come up that people wanted to, found this interesting thing from the past and want to revive it, but if the industry isn't there, what do you do?
I would argue that tartan would have persisted, and you'd still have tartan as an element of national dress, but in a more of just a folk wear kind of a way.
Yeah.
The kilt, the specific garment of the kilt, would be less popular, I think, because all the associations of the kilt with the Highland warrior, with the rustic lifestyle, with all that kind of stuff, would be less romanticized, perhaps, and therefore less important. But tartan, because it looks cool, you'd have an export business. I think you'd still have people who wanted, tartan patterns in their cloth, but it'd be more like suits and dresses, not kilts.
Do you think if there was an attempt to revive it now after being out of the mindset for 100, 200 years, do you think that the cloth that people have available to them to try to revive the whole kilt thing would be the same? Would it be more homespun? Would it end up being something more acrylic potentially based on what's available today?
Depends on how much knowledge. If there's no thread of consistency across the whole thing,
that's what I'm getting at.
Then the question is what gets handed down.
I guess it depends on what the tartan uses are that Eric's describing.
Yeah, exactly. It's the use. The cloth would follow the use. So if it's all curtains, then it would be lighter weight. If it's all men's clothing, it'd be a certain weight. If it's all cheap and cheerful stuff, then it would be acrylic.
Yeah.
I think what it really, really boils down to is the underdog thing. People love an underdog story.
Yeah.
That is a universal fact. You always want the little guy to win. You always want the guy who has less of a chance. And without the underdog story of Culloden, period, and then also the prescription, and also Scotland as a country being ruled over by the English, there's 100 different what ifs we could play on what if Scotland won at Culloden and the prescriptions never happened.
Yeah.
Then would kilts still exist because people would care less about them because they're no longer an underdog? You could literally go 100 different ways with it. This is a very, very weirdly cerebral and interesting question. I'm very glad we got this one.
I feel a series of novels coming on.
Yes, the Marvel What If series, Highlandware edition. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
That was fun. Hey,
yes,
Dave,
indeed.
thank you. That was a lot of fun. I appreciate
Cheers. Ian,
it. Ian.
you're up.
Yes. Okay, so I've got a question here from Oculi Mortis. He says, when I buy my first kilt and culture kilt, I think he misspoke here. When I buy my first USA Kilts kilt this November in the PNW tartan, what bottle would the guys like to receive?
Demerara rum.
There are whatever one you want. Gifts are appreciated. They were never, ever mandatory.
This was weird. The fact that the way this whole thing came together is just weird.
I
honestly.
am not complaining that we have an
I did
entire
not ever
freaking
expected
wall
this.
all back there and on this table of people giving us whiskey. I will never complain about gifts of whiskey. So whatever you want to give us, period. And it is never, ever mandatory or expected. It's always a pleasant surprise. Yes, I'm happy you're looking forward to Pacific Northwest. That one's
Yay.
in the can, as us media people say. That one's in the can. That one's ready. We have a little something fun for that one. I'm loving that one. I think we actually have that one. The cloth is actually all in order already. So we have a little sample piece. We can make it up for the whole video. It's going to be very nice. I'm excited.
Yeah.
We had the first 4 done. I'm so freaking excited about this. It's getting more fun as we're getting into it. What was the question outside of what bottle? Is that it? You got me all excited about the American.
I think it was a love letter kind of question. But
yes.
Thank you for the consideration.
Yes. It was just essentially what bottle, Ian?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Pacific Northwest is going to be.
So if you're in
awesome.
Pacific Northwest, get us something from Pacific Northwest or something cool. I don't know. Just find something fun and throw it at us.
I think there's something to be said for if there's a way we can boost signal for a local distillery or something that you think is actually doing a really good job and doing justice to the tradition of the craft, then we want to know about that.
Yes.
That's a good answer.
That's the only thing I'd say. I mean, if we can be of service somehow, that'd be cool.
The only minor asterisk is if it sucks, we're going to say it sucks. If we don't like it,
we're honest.
We don't like it. We are honest brokers, and we're going to give our honest opinion on stuff.
Right.
That was a decision we made almost show number 1 is we can't lie. Everything we do here has to be honest, truthful. We're going to give our honest opinions on things, whether it's Scotch, whether it's Highland wear, whether it's buckle brogues. I'm going to tell you what I truly think about buckle
I
brogues.
don't have the energy to keep track of lies.
Yeah. To quote Judge Judy, if you're a liar, you have to have a good memory. My memory, not good at all.
Seriously.
Indeed. Ian, that was a weird short one. Do you have another one for me?
I could come up with one, certainly. Here we go. Stray Cat 1674. I assume that's the
What's
year.
up, Stray Cat?
The year he was born, or she.
Yep.
I don't know. When wearing vest only, like just with a dress shirt or a grandfather shirt or whatever, when would it be best, fashion or aesthetic-wise, to wear a vest with a collar versus a vest without any collar?
Oh, like collar meaning lapels. I'm
Lapels.
assuming.
Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe he did mean collar, but I think lapels is probably what he meant.
Yeah, because the collar is on a shirt. The vest is going to have lapels.
Yeah, vests with a collar
Yeah.
are like military style, and that's a very 19th century throwback kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or a priest.
It's. I would say it's very much personal preference. You don't need to when I get a vest, I don't know if you can hear that. We're having a thunderstorm.
Hail
here,
Thor.
So, yeah. So if we lose power, we have not been blown up. It's thunderstorm.
Or both.
The insert lightning and thunder noises here in case they aren't on they can't hear it in the audience.
It's all good.
But no, I tend to like lapels in the vest. They're fun. If I'm going to wear a tweed that I know I'm going to wear a necktie with often, if it's going to be a dressier looking tweed that I don't wear neckties a lot, but if I'm going to wear a necktie, I tend to not get the collars and the lapels on the vest, because on the back of the vest, if there are lapels, there needs to be a little bit of tweed fabric on the back. So that tweed fabric, when closed with a necktie, that tweed fabric grabs at the necktie and it kind of travels off to one side. So instead of it being a nice, clean, straight down look, it ends up kind of moving over, so it looks like it's on an angle. Then I'm forced to wear a tie clip underneath the vest just to keep it centered, so it looks nice and not disheveled. But you don't, there's no hard and fast rule. This is when you wear lapels. This is when you don't wear lapels. The only hard and fast rule I can think of has more to do with the back of the vest. If you're going to wear it with a jacket, then it's typically a satin back. If you're going to wear the vest by itself, then you could do a material back because it looks a little bit nicer. But the material underneath the jacket is another layer of warmth, and you tend to get a little bit hot.
And you get that fabric sticking on fabric problem there too.
Yep.
So I would say basically lapels on vests, on waistcoats, they've gone in and out of fashion almost on a basis of decades over the years. There's no hard and fast rule about it. Personally, I like the lapels more if I'm not wearing a jacket, because it adds a little something to the outfit, aka like Rocky is doing now. If I'm wearing a jacket and the waistcoat together, I lean a little bit more towards no lapels on the vest because I like the cleaner silhouette. But that's just a personal preference. There's no hard and fast rule about it at all.
Yeah, I think they feel a little fancy, a little something.
Yeah.
So it just dresses up the vest, in my opinion. I tend, as I've gotten a little more into it and have been wearing them over the years, I tend to go towards lapels, but not every single one I have has lapels.
Yeah.
So
They do look a little more retro, vintage, fogey-ish,
Yeah.
I'll say.
Yeah.
Even though, again, they've gone in and out of style over the decades. We tend to think of them as an old style. So that's a factor.
I agree, and as I mature, shall we say, in my silver in my beard, I tend to dress a little when I'm dressing with a vest. I tend to look a little more fogey-ish.
Silver fox.
What do you call the fox?
The other advantage of the lapels is that you can always wear your official USA Kilts communicator pin.
Indeed.
But
Beam me up, Eric.
beam me up, Adam. Yeah.
Silver sloth, maybe? Not silver spots.
That's too close to home. Silver couch potato. It's like you're wrapped in foil. Oh, geez, I'm tired. Okay, that was fun. Hopefully that helped.
Yeah.
But-
Cheers. All right, 350. We'll do one more. I'll spill my coffee on my kilt, and then we'll do the middle of the show segment.
I have somehow lost the name of the person who asked this question. But the question had been from El Misterioso, was if you cannot wear a kilt, what accessories in tartan would you wear to represent your clan or your heritage, just when you're out on the street?
Okay.
Like if you can't wear a kilt, what tartan things would you wear?
So options being trews, trousers,
Okay.
jacket,
Yeah.
tie,
Yep.
cummerbund vest. I'm kind of going tartan vest.
Tartan vest. I got cummerbund. Yes, I'm going to the Starbucks this afternoon. I better put on my cummerbund.
I'm giving all the options. Flannel shirt, T-shirt from those
Flannel shirt?
spectacular ads I see on Facebook.
Oh my God.
Those freaking printed on tartan
That's
T-shirts
new.
that always have the freaking
and you know they're 100% polyester.
all the stolen
That's how
tartans.
you do those.
Oh jeez.
Gross.
Please, 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 for the
Don't
love
do
of
that.
God, do not buy those scam artist things, made in China T-shirt print-on things that have
They're
either
garbage.
stolen tartan designs or garbage stuff in general. Just exploiting the
Yeah.
culture and the heritage. It's horrible.
It's bad.
Please don't do it.
It's bad fast fashion.
Yes.
Like I said, I mean,
Yes.
the way you get those all over prints is by printing it on
Printing it on cloth,
polyester.
cutting
No,
it
it
out.
has to be polyester. It only works
Yeah.
with polyester, so they feel like ass. They're just not good. It's not good.
You're surrounded by butts.
As
Sure.
some of you who work for a living may
Indeed.
feel at times. But
So that's the one I would wear. 100% that one. That's the one I wear. Full ass shirt.
you said necktie?
I said necktie. So it's
Bow tie?
But what would you wear? How would you express it? What would you, Eric, the individual?
I think for me it's gotta be a tie most of the time, because I'm very selective about where I have the color pop in an outfit.
Okay.
So I think a tie is probably the single most tasteful way of doing it. I know this is really cliche and boring, because it's what everybody does. It's like Joe in accounting does on Fridays. He wears his clan tartan tie. But there's a reason why people do it. It's because it works. I think a tartan vest could be fun. I think that'd be cool. I would not wear tartan pants. I just don't care for them. Less is more, I think, is where I'm coming from. I'm torn on tartan hats. There are some tartan hats out there like, tam o' shanters and stuff, which are cool looking, and there are others that look really tacky. So a little kind of on the fence about those.
Yeah, I'm going all over the place in my brain here. So, all right, tartan. I'm gonna minorly disagree on tartan trousers. Trews, I'm not a fan of, especially on bigger guys. We used to sell trews. Trews meaning very, very high-waisted, fishtail back pants that come up above your belly button, meant to be worn with a Prince Charlie jacket and vest or a shorter cut jacket and waistcoat. Those I'm not a big fan of, and when we were selling them, it seemed like the guys who wanted to wear them were bigger guys, and they never looked great. There's photos of me weighing a little bit more, wearing a pair of tartan trews, not a good look. They look good on skinnier guys, in my opinion.
Period.
Yeah, hard stop. Tartan trousers, I'm actually kind of okay with. If I had to wear trousers, I don't generally wear tartan trousers, but if I had to wear tartan trousers, I don't think it would be bad. It depends more on the tartan. I think some kind of lend themselves, or the rest of the outfit, towards being good or bad. I think you could, if you wanted to be a crazy tartan dude, you could potentially wear a full tartan suit. Hey, I did it.
Okay.
That's how I got
Okay.
kicked out of my fraternity, was wearing a full tartan suit.
And that's an endorsement.
Well, they were assholes. Sorry for the explicative. But I wore a Royal Stewart tartan jacket. I still wish I had pictures of that
I
freaking thing.
really wish you had pictures.
I love ska in the 90s, baby. So no, I had a Royal Stewart jacket, pants. That was my only suit that I had, so I had to wear it, and I got kicked out. True story.
Tartan
but
suit.
I think you could wear tartan trousers. I think it could be a nice look. You may look like you're going golfing later, but it could be done. I think if you're gonna wear a vest with tartan trousers, vest on bias, tartan trousers straight. I wouldn't wear a necktie with vest and trousers. That's too much. That's jumping the shark.
Seen that done. Yeah.
It's a bit much.
I'll give a. First of all, I have actually worn tartan trousers a few times. I had a pair, and we actually did a photo shoot a few years ago, where I did, civilian Saxon, Highland dress kind of style with Stuart Black trousers and tie and tweeds and stuff. But I think you make a really good point about it kind of depends on the tartan specifically. If you just want to look good, if you want to represent your clan, you're probably going to be more drawn to something that's modern or ancient, very recognizable. But in general, the more sedate the tartan, the better. And so I think, and they're more popular now. Am I rambling enough for you? Tartan sport coats. They go in and out of style. I think more younger folks are wearing them right now. It just happens to be in style right now. But I might be okay with that. I don't know if I myself would do it because I'm a Stuart, so I don't know if I'd.
There's 100 different Stuart tartans.
Well, I know it'd be easy. I just have to, like a Stuart weathered sport coat. Maybe I could.
Here, I'm going to go two other directions. One, I could see a tartan vest with a pair of jeans and a dress shirt underneath. Like I have a dress shirt on now, tartan vest and a pair of jeans for a kind of a dressy cash type vibe. We are completely ignoring the 1970s, 80s punk rock tartan pants, tartan whatever on your jacket, zippers out the wazoo.
But those were not clan tartans.
Royal Stuart.
Because
now, they did it as a thumb at the monarch.
Right.
Yes, but...
And Blackwatch as a thumb against the military.
But you could still do it.
Okay.
I could still see doing a...
So you're going to show up at your clan tent at the festival wearing tartan zipper pants.
No. I'm not showing up to that. I'm saying expressing my heritage and my own personal style in my own life, doing a different thing. Now, is it going to be super freaking expensive to get a pair of custom pants made in my own clan tartan and add on mindless zippers to nowhere? Yes, very expensive. Punks can't afford it, but could it be done? Yes.
Okay. I think you went off the silly ramp.
I don't care. I never understood the zippers. The safety pins I get. You could always use a safety pin for something. So, but the extra ones, I don't know. And you have to hold the patches on, of course, and you can't sew. But the zippers I didn't get.
Oh, I knew a guy in college who he took all of his old band shirts and safety pinned them together and make a comforter for his bed.
Okay.
That was pretty BA.
I can't imagine, cozying up, rolling over, and stabbing myself mid-slumber.
He didn't care. This guy was hardcore punk.
Okay.
Serious.
Extra piercings.
I'm imagining punks at a clan tent now. It's like, like, oi, Gov, touch not the cat but a glove, right? Yeah, come on, let me tell you about your heritage. I mean, sorry.
You almost went Cartman there. Like, send me a heritage.
Heritage. Respect my heritage.
From Cockney to South Park. We do it all here. We're here to entertain. Are you not entertained?
Just wear a kilt.
Just wear a kilt.
No, seriously, what I'm curious what other people think.
Yes,
obviously.
That should be the question of the day. It's as if we have a graphic prepared specifically for this question. Oh my God, there it is. Adam, you're so fast. So, if you could wear a kilt,
to do this, I never do it.
If you couldn't wear a kilt, what tartan accessory would you wear to represent your clan/heritage, and how would you incorporate it into your wardrobe? Let us know in the comments. We're going to recap this at the end of the show. Adam, if I go to the last question, or Ian, when he is, scream at me, and then we'll recap it by the end of the show, and I want to hear about it later on too. Cool. All right. Since we are at the halfway point, I would like to introduce our Kilt Ambassador of the Month.
Hey guys, our ambassador today is author, artist, actor, storyteller, and all-around swell guy, Bob Patterson. Bob hails from beautiful Birmingham, Alabama, where he resides in a 100-year-old converted storefront with his wife of 46 years, Pam, who, by the way, he proposed to back in the 2nd grade. Both are music lovers, and one awesome thing they do in their home is to hold concerts. They regularly bring in artists from around the world who perform in the space for a crowd of about 40 or so locals. Pretty awesome. Now, Bob's career has taken a long and winding road, as he himself puts it. He was a police officer and a detective for over 16 years. And then after that, he owned and operated a tennis retail store. And that in turn led him to traveling the world as a racket technician on the professional tennis tours. Bob and his wife grew up together, and he was always fascinated by Pam's Scottish family. These folks knew their lineage back several generations, with connections to the Muirs, the Finleys, the Davidsons, and many more clans. And they celebrated their Scottish traditions and culture on a regular basis at home. So Bob was actually very amused and touched back when the family gave him the nickname of Sagar, which is apparently a Scottish way of saying somebody who isn't Scottish. He always regretted that he couldn't play along, as it were, since he himself wasn't Scottish. But time makes fools of us all, and in 2015, Bob took a DNA test. Stop me if this sounds familiar. Bob discovered he is 57% Scottish, 19% Irish, and 11% Welsh. Pretty awesome. Bob says he wanted to wear a kilt from the very first time he attended a Scottish Highland Festival, that being Stone Mountain, Georgia, back in 1985. He was at first intimidated by his seeming lack of ancestral connection, but that DNA test cinched it for him. He stoked up his courage and he bought a Muir ancient tartan kilt. He says, "I now wear a kilt most every day. I'm even known as the kilted downtowner. I work them into my wardrobe, utilizing my favorite designers." Bob's advice to kilt newbies is pretty straightforward. Don't overthink it or worry too much like he did back in the day. He says, "I wished I had started long ago. Don't worry about the rules, just do it." And that makes perfect sense to me. We're all on our own individual journeys with this stuff, and there's more than one way to skin a kilt. Anyway, Bob and Pam have really figured it out, and I really appreciate them sharing their story and their amazing lifestyle with us.
Here's to Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Yes.
Cheers.
Sludge.
Slange.
Indeed.
Then we gotta get an invite to his next concert.
Yeah. Very interesting
Actually.
dude. Very interesting dude.
And that is just the tip of the iceberg. He does a lot of other stuff too, including some
Author,
voice acting,
yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Voice
So,
acting, author, all around pretty
Yep.
cool guy.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
interesting. Very, very, very deep life. A lot of different type of experiences.
Just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Indeed.
Which is what we're about here.
Yes.
Do the life thing. Kilts are all about like doing the life thing and making your life an adventure on your own terms.
Yeah, it's part of it.
That's what I like to say.
Yeah, indeed. So, cheers.
Okay.
All right, was that Ian? Or, no, yeah, you were the
that
last
was me. So now it's Ian.
one. Ian. And
Yeah.
by the way,
Hi,
if you
Ian.
need a
Hola.
if you need any breath mints or anything for your cough, let me know.
Okay.
I
Thank
thought you
you.
were worried he was offending the other team members.
No.
Mhm.
The other chairs. Here's actually.
Ian, what do we got coming out there on the interwebs?
So Conlon McLaughlin asks, would it be fine to wear an Argyle jacket with an Irish county tartan kilt? I'd like to keep my soon-to-arrive County Wicklow kilt for more formal occasions and can't afford an Irish formal jacket.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, 100%. The
We have lots of people who do.
yeah. Irish, the Irish jackets, the long, deep, historical story of the Irish jackets goes all the way back to the late 1990s, early 2000s. Essentially, I think I've said it before, but I haven't said it for a while. Here's the evolution of the Brian Boru jacket and vest. A nice guy, a friend of ours, Scott Chalmers. Rest in peace. Do whatever the thing there.
Yeah.
He has owned the company Gaelic Themes, and back in the 90s, or late 90s, early 2000s, he wanted to update the Prince Charlie jacket and vest. He wanted to give it a shawl collar, wanted to have a chain across the front, wanted a nice new contemporary kind of look for the Prince Charlie because it's an old style. It started in the 1920s, so he's figured it's time for a refresh. I got this. So he designed essentially what is now known as the Brian Boru. He went to a bunch of different companies in Scotland, went to the companies to buy stuff for him for rental or for hire, and said like, hey, we've contemporized the Prince Charlie. What do you think of this jacket? And they said, oh, it's beautiful. And he said, great. Pull out the old order pad. How many can I put you down for? None, because we already have an entire inventory of Prince Charlies, and we don't want to change it all over. So he said, Didn't think about that. All right. So essentially the design of the Brian Boru, what's now called the Brian Boru, was just too good to throw away. Frankly, speaking honestly, it's a nicely designed jacket. It's a nice contemporary look.
I like it better.
Yeah. So Scott said, I don't want to just, throw this away. We got to do something with it. And that was when the Irish tartans were coming into their own. It was after the movie Braveheart, and all the Irish people wanted jackets and wanted Irish Highland wear as well. So he basically said, okay, let's put heart buttons on this. Let's call it a Brian Boru as opposed to a Prince Charlie, and we're going to make this the Irish formal jacket. So it's not steeped in thousands of years of history as some people might think it is. It's just a twist on a Scottish thing to give it an Irish angle, in the same way that the Kilkenny jacket and vest is just a twist on an Argyle jacket and vest to give it an Irish angle. The Kilkenny kind of started off in bottle green to be even more, on the nose Irish looking. But not many people love the green jacket, so they ended up, a lot of people just said,
on the nose.
look, I just want a black jacket, but with the Irish appointments, and make it a little bit different than the Argyle. So, no, you're not doing anything wrong. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who have Argyle jackets with Irish tartans. It is 100% fine.
Or PCs.
Yeah, or Prince Charlie's / Brian Boru's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other insight?
Not really.
give
I
there?
mean, if you're trying to get something that will just be serviceable for formal occasions, then don't worry about it. I mean, there's other things you do for customizations, but don't worry about it. Just enjoy it.
I'd also point out that there are a lot of other accessories that you can express your Irish heritage within. There are now in the market in Highland wear since the early 2000s, late 90s. There's definitely an Irish angle to stuff, a Welsh angle to stuff, where people are trying to make it more of a pan-Celtic garment than it is just Scottish. So unfortunately, the way a lot of it has kind of evolved over time was, look, we want to make this Irish, so let's take this Scottish sporran and whack a shamrock on it. We're going to call that Irish. We're going to whack a Masonic symbol on it. We're going to call it Masonic. We're going to whack a Welsh dragon on it. We're going to call it Welsh. But they haven't really innovated at all. They haven't done anything different. It just looks like an A plus B equals C type thing. So there are a few companies that have done a more of a service to Irish customers. Glenesk has some nice buckles and things like that it's not just whacking a shamrock on. We, in our Irish accessories, have really tried to start from scratch with a particular market segment, i.e. Irish, people of Irish heritage, in mind, and design something around that, not just take an existing design, throw a shamrock on it, and say, look, guys, it's Irish, it's green, haha. So
It's
there
patronizing.
it's very patronizing, yes. Yeah. And that's how I kind of felt about it, and that's why we jumped into it the way that we did.
Yeah.
So there are some interesting Irish, we're not the only ones, there are other companies that sell some interesting Irish accessories, but there are other more economical ways to get into, to express your Irish heritage in your outfit without saying, like, I need a full Irish jacket. If you have an Argyle, wear that. Maybe if you have a little bit of scratch, maybe an Irish sporran. If you have only a tiny bit of scratch, maybe a kilt pin or a belt buckle or something like that. But there are other ways to express it, not just the jacket and the main parts of the outfit.
I do have one piece of trivia that he may find interesting. One of the earliest examples, let me just back up. One of the main things that makes a Prince Charlie or an Argyle look Scottish, quote unquote, is those square buttons, which are called Clan na Gael buttons, because there is the remains of a inscription around the outer edge that says Clan na Gael, which basically means I am Gaelic. Okay.
Child of
the Gaels.
Yep.
One of the earliest examples we have of those buttons, because nobody's completely sure on when they originated, is a specimen that was found on an American Civil War battlefield down south. I forget which battle, but the supposition is that it might have actually come off of a garment owned by someone who's in one of the Irish units, one of the Irish, I was going to say brigades, but I don't mean the Irish brigade. one of the Irish units in the conflict, not a Scotsman. And that has led some people to question if the whole thing was actually originally an Irish thing. But I think the button, I can't remember if that one has the lion in the middle. I mean, the lion would cinch it that it's actually Scottish. But you know, it's Gallic. It says the same. You're still saying the same thing, you know, in a sense. So I wouldn't worry about it from that standpoint either.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's another word on the bottom. There's Clonargail up top, I think, and then there's another Ansaram or something.
I forget.
I forget the other word on the bottom. And that it's been interpreted and changed so many times. It's like it's kind of a guess on what I forget what the bottom word is. Shoot, I shouldn't have even brought it up.
That's why it's hard to
the
read,
answer.
though.
Yeah.
It's because they're copying these old specimens, which are
Yep.
were not precise to begin with.
Yeah.
It was not something that belonged to somebody who was highfalutin originally. It was probably just a cheap piece of jewelry originally. It was not well cast by our standards today. So
Yeah.
So it's fascinating how we
pieces of
heap.
trivia today.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
We're very trivial.
Indeed. Cheers. That was Ian?
That was Ian.
Eric.
Okay. Richard Whittington. I gotta stop doing that. I'm sorry, that's annoying.
Blow
poor
out
Kristen.
the mic over there for Kristen.
Yeah,
For Bob. Sorry, Steve.
Yep. We have a new member of the team on here today, is Kristen, who you'll catch glimpses of her now on our TikToks. Hopefully, you are all following us on TikTok because we do some fun stuff over there. Different content than we do elsewhere. And she's our TikTok person. So, and today she's the audio person, so we're torturing her. Richard asks, what do you think being part of a clan means in the 21st century?
Being part of a clan.
Being part of a clan
so
society.
what does it mean to be part of a clan?
He says a clan, but I think you say clan or clan society.
Okay.
You know, kind of differentiate a vague sense of connection versus a specific official member with paying dues.
Yes. So clan back then,
right,
versus clan now. So then something very, very different, living on land, fealty to the chief, versus today. Now, today, if I'm part of a clan society, or
right now,
yes, does that mean I can be, asked to join his militia and defend my clan chief's land in Scotland? Sorry, my Saturday's booked.
He could ask.
He could ask. He could ask all he wants. I would go a little bit more thoughts of evolution on it. What does it mean to be part of a clan today? Would be, what does it mean to connect with your heritage, to connect with a broader family, to connect with your kin, either known or unknown, or when you go to a clan tent and want to have an experience with members who have a similar background or a similar history or a similar upbringing in culture, or with a specific spotlight on a particular kind of culture as they're coming up. It's more about finding your tribe today and people who like the same stuff as you, versus defending your clan chief. It's the thread of tradition that runs through it, but I would say it's evolved over time.
Kinda.
Eric.
Yeah. I mean,
He froze.
I don't think that being a member of a clan society or identifying as a member of a Highland clan, Scottish clan, what have you, or an Irish family for that matter, is much different in the 21st century than it was in the 20th, or even to a degree the latter half of the 19th. There are not the brass tacks, physical, material kind of obligations or structures, in place for this stuff. It is really, it's about all the feels. It's about the identity. It's about the heritage. It's about the
personal experience.
Personal experience and a sense of family by choice, in a sense, because you're not very strictly blood related. Really not. I mean, we're talking about generations upon generations, but still, it's that wanting to be part of something that is greater than yourself. And I think that it's also about feeling a connection to something which, in your purview, is more timeless. So 20th, 21st century, 22nd century, that's all beyond the point. The point is that this is a structure that has existed for, in a sense, time immemorial. In some ways, we've made a bigger deal out of it than they did back then. In some ways, we don't make a big deal of it at all because we're not in a feudal society. So it's about being a part of something that is not contingent upon your current circumstances of living, current technology, what the rest of the world is telling you. It is a little nugget of timeless core culture that you can, feel connected to and feel good about yourself as a result. You're more than just going to your 9-to-5 job. You're more than just, the person who fills out the forms for your insurance or has an auto loan or anything. You're part of a lineage. You're part of an identity. It's totally about the fields. It is also about finding connections. It's a lever for finding connections, which can also broaden your experiences, or even build kinship with people, just like being a part of a fraternal organization. Because you're involved with your clan or your clan society, you may meet people who become your friends. Family by choice, like I said, and you may find situations where you are helping each other. Because the bottom line of the clan as a structure was that it was a way of formally saying, I got your back. So trying to use these modes and these terms and these ideas now and these structures gives you a cornerstone, as it were, a building block for saying you've got these relationships and you're going to try and help each other. Or at the very least have a nice drink, at the end of a night at a festival. So was I on too much of a soapbox there?
No. I'm gonna crawl on top of your shoulders on that same soapbox.
Sounds uncomfortable.
Not in a kilt though.
Ooh.
I would say I like your idea of being part of a larger story, and it's giving more gravitas to your family's story. It's not saying your story starts with you. It's saying your story has a longer heritage, a longer beginning, an earlier beginning than just you. You are the culmination of hundreds of years of family history. And it is incumbent upon you to take that torch and carry it forward to the next generation and to teach them about your family's history. And that includes clan history, and that includes your cultural history and your cultural heritage. Mm-hmm. So it's taking that torch and moving it forward and not letting it drop. And then in also going to the other side of it, it's not just about you as a person, it's about the community that you're building. And it's about the community of like-minded individuals. It's about the community of others who are also, stewards or stalwarts of this heritage and who are also passing them forward and supporting each other and making sure that there are structures and organizations and things in place so that the whole story doesn't get lost if one generation stops telling it. There's safety nets for the rest of the story to be picked up. So if you don't want to talk about your grandfather didn't care about being a Duncan from Edinburgh in 1743, and that's where his family emigrated from, there are other ways for you to connect with people who have similar interests 3, 4, 5 generations from now, and those structures still exist for future generations to do it. So that's the safety net and the building of the community around the heritage and making sure that the whole thing keeps moving forward. Mm-hmm. But it's both incumbent upon the individuals within the families to make sure that you're passing down those stories, as well as the structures to help make sure that the whole thing gets passed down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's totally in line with what I was trying to express. But I'm the crazy heathen person who honors ancestors on a regular basis, so I'm a little biased. I think it's something that you can consider yourself lucky to have. Anyone who was raised in a situation where they were brought up in a minority population, where they've had their cultural identity and the identities of their ancestors stripped from them, that's painful and incredibly frustrating. So the fact that you have access to some sense of where you come from is a gift. So don't take it too lightly. A lot of people would really trade places with you if they could, in the sense of having that connection. And
Yeah.
they yearn for it. We just do as humans. We yearn for that kind of thing. So.
And it goes back to the whole underdog thing. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're, it's just rooting for the underdog, rooting for the little guy, rooting for not letting the thing drop, not letting it go, making sure that
Right.
you're not the last link in the chain.
Right.
That there's one beyond you. Thoughts?
Yeah. There you go.
Ian.
I have a few thoughts to add here. I think if there is something new to the clan affiliation in the 21st century, it's the digital element. We actually had a group of like 6 or 8 folks in the store just earlier today. Only one person was really interested in purchasing anything because this wasn't what the group was about, but they all met through TikTok and other social media forums and came from
Right.
all over the country to get together for a trip. I think based around motorcycle interest. I didn't talk with them a bunch, but I think there's a lot of examples like that, whether it's motorcycles or D&D or interest in a particular national dress, that people
Right.
come together online and it becomes something more. And I think that's true for the clan societies. You might join a Clan McDonald Facebook page,
Right.
but that turns into
Agree.
connecting with the Clan McDonald through their website, paying dues, maybe having access to products that aren't generally available at commercial sources, which is true for some of the smaller clans. I don't know that McDonald counts as a smaller clan, but some of the smaller
don't tell
clans
them
do that. And then it culminates in meeting up with folks, whether it's planning some trip together, just going to the Highland Games and manning the tent.
Yeah.
It's
The one thing that I want to, there's another organization is COSCA, the Council of Scottish Clans of America, I think it's called.
I wrote it
or
down.
Clan
actually.
Associations.
Council of Scottish Clans and Associations.
Yes. So COSCA is a great organization. We are now a corporate sponsor for COSCA. So check out COSCA. It's basically an organization that tries to put together a lot of the different individual clan societies.
Yeah.
So it's in their whole mission is building community bigger than individual clan societies. Individual clan societies are great to build community, and then when you get all of them together, they form like Voltron. COSCA, the Voltron of clan societies. Again.
I hope they make that the tagline on their website.
Yes, indeed.
Oh my
Marketing for COSCA, Voltron. I broke Ian. So, yes,
man.
getting involved and getting organizations like this and supporting each other is all about what it's about, and making sure that it does get pushed forward.
Mm-hmm. I think to your point, Ian, I don't think it's vastly different from how it's always been done. It's just a lot easier and a lot faster.
And easier for people disparate locations to meet up.
You see, as a member of the SCA, I remember the days when you got paper news booklets every month.
Zines.
It was with articles and the calendar events and officer lists and contact information, and you got that in the mail and you looked for it and it was like, oh, cool, so it was a lot slower, but we did do it. We're back in my day. See?
I was waiting for that quote to come out. No, technology, the interwebs have 100% made this 1,000 times easier. The dissemination of information. I remember if you missed a particular show, you didn't get the flyers for the next 4
show.
upcoming shows.
Right.
So you were out of the loop. So unless you had someone that was at the show that you're friends with, you didn't know. So technology is 100% a double-edged sword. It's horrible in so many ways, but at the same time, it allows communities of like-minded individuals to find their own niche. You're not alone. You're not looking for, you're not searching around in the dark for the one other guy in town who happens to be a Campbell. You're connected with Campbells all over the U.S. or
All over the world.
or MacGyvers all over the. You're connected. It's so much easier to find these things now than it was back in the 90s or even before then. So,
which means you got no excuse.
Exactly.
Get out there.
Yeah.
Interact with your clan.
Come on, Gen Z. Back in my day, we had
Start
to
a
walk,
Discord server.
we had to walk uphill both ways to the festival.
We drank our whiskey out of shoes and we were happy.
Exactly.
That's the Germans.
Yes. All right. Enough of this debauchery.
I'm all psyched up now.
Was
though.
that you or was that Ian?
That was me.
You. Ian.
So we've got a question here
Raring to
from
go.
Heiner Rivera. He's the one who gave us the rum that we drank.
I hope
just a
Puerto
few
Rico's
episodes back.
treating you well, Heiner. Great guy.
Yes, he is. So he wants to know, are dress sporrans only for Prince Charlie level of dress, or can they be used with a tweed?
I know what we say and I know what people actually do.
I
Tried it.
Yeah.
It's I've softened on it a bit.
I have as well. I have.
Depending on the type of dress sporran. Now, if it is a chrome, ostentatious, over the top, fancy freaking doodads dress sporran, if it is the fanciest of dress sporrans,
It's like
then
the goat hair. With
yeah,
the
goat
gold,
hair,
with the
yeah.
gold appointments. Yeah.
yeah, I would say if it's a gold cantle, yeah, it's really kind of fancy. If it's chrome, it's even still kind of fancy. Fur, it's still typically fancy. Here are my asterisks to this. So, like, traditionally speaking, yes, a dress sporran is for formal, period.
After 6.
My asterisks. Asterisks.
Astragai?
Astrakai? Yes, sure. Astraskiski are 1. Does it have an antiqued cantle? Maybe you could get away with a tweed jacket and vest, or a chocolate bronze cantle. I think actually looks quite smart with a tweed jacket and vest. Our sporran maker played around with wood cantles for a period. I would say that only looks good with a tweed jacket and vest. A wood cantle for formal looks weird. And I've seen another company that does like soapstone or something, like some kind of stone cantle.
Soapstone.
That,
It is
again,
soapstone.
it definitely does not look formal. It looks a little more casual. So those, yes, tweed jacket and vest. For if it is a leather dress sporran, meaning it's not fur on the front, it's leather tassels, but it still has a cantle, then yeah, I think you could probably get away with that for a tweed jacket and vest as well. Eric.
No, I agree. As much as we like to have some kind of a benchmark, kind of some kind of you should know X before you do not X, and some basic guidelines. I see people break the rule all the time. I see photographs of clan chiefs out in tweeds with a full dress sporran, fox fur dress sporran at the games and stuff.
Or weddings in Scotland now.
Just people do what they're going to do these days. I think from a taste standpoint, I still think that it's better to save the fancy stuff for the evening. But to that, I don't feel like a chocolate bronze cantle is formal enough. I would not wear chocolate bronze for an evening event. Just doesn't feel right to me. But yeah, you can get away with a lot in terms of the antique and more sedate pelt, like a bovine pelt or plain leather. If you're talking fox or something like that, then
It's a bit ostentatious.
it's a little bit off. It's funny because what we consider dress sporrans now did evolve out of things which people would wear at other times of the day. The idea of only saving them for special occasions or evening occasions is a little more modern than you might think. I mean, if you look at people in 19th century, my favorite people, the Victorians, you'll see guys in very beautiful
goat hair.
Goat hair, especially goat hair was popular with obviously silver cantle and such. Again, with the fancy placketed chains, and they're wearing it with tweeds.
Yeah.
So
It's fashion is cyclical, and even in this
Right.
way, it's kind of cyclical. You're right. A good point. It was worn back then, and then in the 1900s, the 20s, when Highland dress started to kind of get relegated to formal only for the most part,
kind of.
especially the late 1900s, especially in Scotland, it became a little bit more just you wear, your dress sporran is for dress, and people would kind of make do with what they had to some degree. So there's always going to be people that are crossing the streams, but it kind of became the standard. Now, I would say with the casualization of Highland wear in Scotland through the rental industry, through the hire industry, where tweeds are the thing that 20-somethings are renting right now, that is why you have things like black metal, or you have the chocolate bronze that people are wearing that look better with tweed jacket and vests, and that's kind of how it's all just kind of playing with it within a fashion lens.
Fashion.
Yeah. So
Definitely fashion.
because rental, for the most part, rental companies over in Scotland, I would say probably 3-to-1, 2-to-1 are renting tweeds because that's what the 20-somethings want. they are renting more of the other types of things to go with it. So,
Yeah, pretty much.
and they're also focusing more on more tweed-like kilts or fashiony kilts that go better, or marled yarns that go better with the tweeds. So it's 100% an evolution. The higher industry drives it in that way. I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Good question. Ian, did you have a point to add?
Yeah, I'll add that I've broken this rule.
You son of a...
I would say that it is still
I have no son.
Yes.
it is still a good to a very good rule, but I think anything you do to like make the sporran a little more rustic helps in some way, especially with tweed, giving you that
Right.
British hunting vibe.
Yep.
So the one that I have, it is antiqued, which I think helps over chrome, and it is Highland Coo fur, not some of the more typical ones. And while it is atypical, it does just feel more rustic and more
Earthy.
lowfalutin.
Yeah.
Lowfalutin.
To me. So I don't wear it. I only wear it about once a year. I don't wear it just with a tweed at the shop, but I have worn it to like our Christmas party, which isn't an overly fancy event, but does call
fancy
for
enough.
a little bit dressing
Yeah,
up.
exactly.
Yeah.
Something
so
more festive.
I
Yeah.
still don't think I love it with tweed, but it
I
works
see what
well
you did
enough.
there. Love it with tweed.
I wanted to say something earlier about your reference to black metal, but
Yes.
I
didn't
know,
wanna pipe
I
in.
did too. But I wasn't on I wasn't on camera. I was going.
So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. So, ultimately, yes, it's not the end of the world, but yeah, there's some that work better and some that work less better. So, cool. Cheers. All right, Eric.
Okay. All right. From YouTube, Scarn81 asked, "What are the fundamental skills that a person needs to be a successful kilt maker? Pattern recognition, patience, all the maths. What does it take to be a kilt maker?"
All right, Ian, we'll bring you in for this one as
Seriously.
well.
Yeah, no trigonometry. That's not necessary.
Yeah.
Don't need all the maths.
Eyesight.
Eyesight helps.
I jest when I say this, but I'm not being colorblind.
That also
It's
helps.
definitely
That could be a problem.
Yeah, especially when it's something like Blackwatch, where it's navy and black right next to each other, where it's tough to kind of tell the
Something
difference.
like Hey Ancient, where you've got orange and green together. Those
Yeah.
can be mixed up by some
Yeah.
folks.
I'd say a good lighting definitely helps.
Yeah.
I'll let you go first. I have
The
my thoughts.
elephant in the room is attention to detail. If you don't have a strong attention to detail, you're not going to cut it. I think math is important. When folks apply to be a kilt maker here, we do put them through a little bit of a sew test. I've argued in the past we should do a little bit of a math test too. Basic arithmetic. It doesn't require trigonometry, calculus, anything like that. But people who just fundamentally don't get math are going to struggle. Where I've seen some folks struggle who kind of washed out, they just didn't seem. It's pattern recognition isn't the right phrase for it, but it's related.
No, I know what you mean.
If you can't see how the thing comes together without physically folding it, and you can learn it, but if you're too far off of that skill, you're just never going to get there.
Yeah.
Sometimes trying to figure out a reverse set just completely flummoxes some people.
Yeah.
But yeah, attention to detail solves 90% of the subcategories of things you need to be concerned about.
Yeah. I would say you need a hyperfixation. You need an attention to detail as part of that. When we do our interview for kilt makers, we'll bring them in. A, make sure it's a culture fit first, and then B, if they pass the culture fit round, we bring them in for a sew test where we actually sit them down. We say, okay, here, cut out this fabric and do this thing, and we just kind of put them through the paces a little bit, see their comfort level on the machines and that kind of thing, and we'll actually have them put a dozen pleats in 2 pieces of cloth, and just see how they do. And then after Mac is done with them, they'll come over to the office and they'll put the pieces of cloth in front of me and Mac, and my first question will be, in doing your pleats, laid out on the table, critique your own work. Tell me how you did. Show me the mistakes that you made, things that you would do differently, areas where you would need improvement here, and I want to hear what they say. Do they recognize when their pleats have stairs. So when one line matches the next, is it up or is it perfectly in line? If it's not perfectly in line, that's just because they're not pulling and pushing with their hands in the right way because they're not used to working with the fabric. But do they see it? If they can't see it, that's a problem. So that's an attention to detail thing that they have to have.
You can work on the fine motor skills to develop the ability to make it straight. But you're right, if you just don't even see it.
If you can't see it, I can't teach it. I can show you where you did wrong or where it needs to be improved. But if you can't see it yourself innately, that's a problem. So I would say comfort level with a machine, which you can learn over time, but attention to detail and being able to see a pattern, being able to see how to pleat something to the set. A comfort level with working with the cloth are probably the bigger ones for me. Eric, anything you can think of that Ian and I missed? You're not a kilt maker, but you've been around them enough.
Sense of calm, because it is something you have to be the kind of person who enjoys what some people would consider tedious work. You have to be a person who can get lost in the process of doing, something that, a sculptural activity like that, I think. I think there's something you said for that, just being able to go into the zen of the craftsman.
Yeah.
There's something to that, though. I think you can learn that.
Yeah.
You don't have to inherently have it.
Yeah, and I would also say I would minorly disagree with you on the math thing. The math, learning the splits, learning how to, basically take the pattern, measure the size of the set, figure out with the size of the individual how wide each pleat is at the top, how wide it is at the bottom. That you can learn. It's sort of formulaic.
To some degree, but if you don't have like an inherent math skill,
Understood.
you don't see when you've made an error.
Understood. Now, figuring it out for yourself and how to Mac and I, in starting, like when we taught you way back, back in my day, when we taught you, you didn't come in and we said, okay, here's the fabric, here's the guy's measurements. Ian, make it. We taught you how to do the split and how to do the math. Understanding it is a huge step up.
Yeah.
You could learn that over time because it's like, okay, well, here's the formula you're going to use. So you have, here's the, half of the waist is the front apron, and then here's for the deep pleat here you add 10 inches. Then here's here's the ratio.
I guess my point would be, though, that if you're just plugging numbers into a formula and you don't understand it and you get a bad result, you won't even notice. You'll just start making it and then realize way too late in the process that you've got a problem.
And that's also where patience comes in this whole thing, because you have to be patient and able and humble enough to rip out pleats that you screwed up. Just say, well, my math was off. Why is this end result? I'm now at the end of my fabric and I'm 3 pleats short. Why?
Dope.
Figuring out, okay, yep, I did the math wrong, and then taking out all of that work you did carefully so you're not cutting the fabric, Natalie, and don't get me started. So
called her out by name. Wow. Ouch.
Deep cuts, you would say.
Yeah, but that was
from
like
the top rope.
Like 10 years ago.
That was more than 10 at this point.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
But but it's learning to be patient and really, really focusing on the tiny details. And if you screw up, not freaking out, staying calm, staying level, and saying, okay, all right, I just have to do this part over. It's not good enough. It doesn't meet the standards, So I'll add one more to the category here: quality standards. It's attention to detail and standards of quality. You have to figure out what is your tolerance for good enough. When we first started, what we tell our kilt makers here is it's a thread and a half. So if your kilt pleats are more than a thread and a half off, you have to tear it out and redo it. It's if a center stripe is 8 threads wide, if a white stripe is 8 threads wide, if it's 1 thread off or 1.5, it's okay. It's not that bad of a deal. But if it's 2 threads off or more, it's not good enough. Tear it out and redo it. So attention to detail and where you set your quality standards, they're kind of kissing cousins, so to speak, but they're definitely related. So you're welcome, kissing cousins. Any other thoughts on what innate skills or
I think attention to detail really covers a lot of them.
Yeah, it really does.
the
attention to
main thing we're
detail-
looking for when we're hiring for somebody.
Yeah, attention to detail, patience, and just comfort with going through the process, and an insatiable appetite to be better than the kilt before, an insatiable appetite for learning on what's the best way to do this thing, and then if you find something, a different way to do it, try it, and if it works, great, add it to the arsenal. If it doesn't work, great, don't do it again, tear it out and do it over. Yeah, those are the main ones. Cool. Cheers. All right, Ian, what do we got there on the interwebs?
Yes. Let's go with question from Michael Milholland. He says, I found a family line of McClintock, but when I look for the tartan, such as on your store, I get redirected to Colquhoun or McDougall. How do I find a McClintock tartan kilt? I'm striking out.
Okay. If you're looking for a particular tartan, and you're striking out on websites like ours or any other kilt company that has SEPs and list SEPs and things like that, I would say start with the Scottish Registered Tartans and search for McClintock,
Right.
spelled the way you spell your name. If something pops up, look at that particular tartan, and it may or may not be readily available. It may or may not be woven by any of the mills. This is, the mills are a commercial enterprise. They are not going to weave all of the 7, 8, 9,000 different tartans and stock support them that are in the register. So start there. If you search McClintock with a CK, but it may also be spelled with a K on the end, no C. Search for it a couple different ways. Spelling as a convention, as a standardization, spelling wasn't really standardized until the 1850s, when Webster's Dictionary, I think it was 1852. I don't know why I know this weird fact, but I do. So Webster's Dictionary in the 1850s is when spelling of words started to become standardized. Then in the latter half of the 1800s, 19th century, did names start to become standardized. And when people came over, to Ellis Island or emigrated to different places, not Ellis Island was later, but when people emigrated, they would say to the customs agent, this is my name. And the customs agent, who may or may not know how to spell real well, and you as someone emigrating may not know how to spell your name real well, just wrote it down, okay, this is your name now. So that's where McClintock with a CK may have just been McClintock with a K. Or Mick MC Lintock versus Mac Lintock versus MACK Lintock. Like, it's all these things were not standardized back then. That's why when people do their own family genealogy and jumping the pond, so to speak, when they get to the relative who was here in America or Canada or wherever it was, and then they try to go back to Ireland, or they try to go back to the UK, or try to go back to Scotland, whatever, that's where they run into problems, because the name may have been different, or it may have evolved differently over there. So don't get super duper hung up on the spelling of the name if it's way back then, because it may have been different, even though it may have been the same family. Eric, before I continue on, are there any thoughts you have with this stuff?
Yup. Now, yeah, to summarize what you were saying, I think we do have cases where a group of people were considered a sept of a clan, and then as they evolved, were able to have their own tartan. They might still be considered a sept, but they also developed their own identity as an independent clan, either colloquially or officially, and so you wind up this situation where there didn't used to be a Smithosen tartan, but now there is. The problem is there's only so many Smithosens out there in the world, so you can get the Smith tartan, but the Smithosen exists because somebody, the goodness of their heart, registered it, designed it and registered it, and it's on the registry, but there's no financial incentive for it to be woven. So if you want it, you wind up having to do like a special order, get a group order together so that you and all the other Smithsons can get your unique tartan that you want, because it's a recent thing and there's not a lot of people who want it. That happens a lot these days because things are evolving. Groups are widening.
I have a real world example of that.
I know you do.
Is Carruthers.
Yes.
There was Carruthers is a sept of Clan Bruce, and the Carruthers Clan Society wore the Bruce Ancient Tartan as their official clan tartan. But I want to say it was about 10 years ago or so, a gentleman from, I forget if it was England or Scotland, designed a Carruthers tartan and went to the, chief of Clan Carruthers and said, hey, here's the thing. And the guy gave it his, official blessing, Hanukkah Donica, this is the real thing now. And then that became an official clan tartan. And it is registered. And then they worked in coordination with House of Edgar to actually have it stock supported through a very, very long process of playing around with a particular mill of please, please, please stock support this. So there are ways for these things to evolve over time. But that is a real world example of something that happened in the last 10 or so years. Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Yep. And a commercial database like we have is going to have tartans which are stock supported only. Because we don't want to sell somebody down the river, make them think they can get something which doesn't exist. Yeah. So the registry is, as Rocky said at the beginning, that is the place to start with your search.
But to the point of websites like ours that list septs. So if you're showing up with
name spellings.
What was the guy's name again, Ian?
It's McClintock.
McClintock, yeah.
McClintock.
So if you're showing Colquhoun when you're searching on our website, we're showing you Colquhoun when you're looking on our website. That's because McClintock is a recognized sept of Clan Colquhoun. So that, historically speaking, is a tartan associated with the surname McClintock. So it is one, if you're looking for a family connection, that we're not saying we've done your individual genealogy and we know exactly X, Y, and Z. We're saying, hey, here's one through the clan, kith and kin book of Scotland, like the Bible when it comes to clan associations. This is a tartan that is associated with that name. If you're looking for a particular clan affiliation, this is one that you should consider. Or, if you want to find a universal tartan or something else, you can do that as well. But our website's job is to show you tartans associated with your name on some level. Mm-hmm. So, companies that are good stewards of the culture or trying to do something right by their individual customers would list things like that. So I would hope. Anyway, we do. All right.
Indeed.
That was Ian. Eric.
Yes. Matt Horn asks, why is pleating to the stripe not the default for most kilts? From what I've heard, it uses less fabric and I imagine would be simpler for the kilt maker. I understand not every tartan will look good to the stripe, but certainly the majority would. Is to the set just to make it look more civilian rather than military? Why isn't it to the stripe
more standard?
More standard.
Yes, he's actually kind of either accidentally or on purpose touched on a thing of kilts pleated to the stripe being a military type thing. If you go back way back, my attention to detail gene, so to speak, hates, and I use that word not lightly, hates old examples of kilts from way, way, way back when, pleated kind of haphazardly in a 4-yard, which is standard way back then, pleated in a kind of haphazard way across the back of the kilt. I can't look at it. It hurts me. Then over time, kilts got a little bit more cloth into them. They were put a little bit more cloth into the kilt itself, and pleating to the stripe became a military thing from an aspect of if you have to move the buckles on a kilt or adjust it for someone, pleating to the stripe, you don't have to worry about where the belt loops are or if you move the belt loops on the back of the kilt, because if it's to the stripe, it all looks the same. If you move the buckles, it doesn't matter where you end up, they all look the same. So it's a good for versatility of the garment for adjustability. And that's kind of why the military would do it, is because it's uses a little bit less cloth than pleating to the set, and it's easier to adjust. Now, civilian-wise, yes, pleating to the set became more of the standard. Eric, what are your thoughts on it? I kind of lost train of thought mid-sentence there.
I didn't really have thoughts beyond what you said, honestly. But
okay.
Yeah, it was a military tradition, and it is more efficient. And our coworker Mac talks about this sometimes, as he's a World War I reenactor, among other things. And he talks about how you can see kilts that had a lifespan where they went from one person to another, one soldier to another, or where something had to be adjusted, and you can look back and see where they unstitch and restitch things, and making it to the stripe allows you to do that. And in a war economy where fabric is getting more and more expensive, using less fabric makes a lot of sense. But the advent of the 8-yard kilt, which was invented towards the end of the 19th century, I think, meant that it was more of a luxury good. You could do more stuff with it, and so somebody got the bright idea of, hey, we can make these pleats look like something. This would be cool. A lot of the examples he's talking about with the haphazard pleating, it's much earlier. I mean, like I see 19th century, especially if you go past like the 1870s, back like 1850s, 1840s, it can be like in the back because they just didn't care. It wasn't important to them at the time. So pleating to the set, in a sense, is more of a modern thing, you could almost argue. And obviously there's no rule against it. There's no rule against one versus the other. Nowadays you can wear either one. But I think, it really depends on the kilt wearer. I think pleat to the set feels safer to a lot of people, and sometimes, depending on your tartan, pleating to the stripe can be very dramatic, and I think that turns some people off. You look at some of the backs of something, like if there's a yellow accent stripe and they've pleated to that in the back, it's just like, what? You got yellow striped butt. Or you wind up having what we call the lawn chair effect, where it's just like you have these blocks of color that develop horizontally just by how you pleat it. It just doesn't look very flattering, at least to a lot of people like myself. So pleating to the set is preferable from that standpoint. Pleating to the stripe when it's done well, has the advantage of you get that nice little color pop when you move. When the pleats open up as you're in motion, you get that little bit of a sneak of the colors underneath it. It looks kind of cool. But it's just pleated to the set is just safer.
Yeah, it's safer. I would say all kilts look good pleated to the set.
Like you said.
Because you're recreating the pattern. If it's the way that I've described it to people is it's the Christmas tree light trick. So if you're looking at a tartan and you squint your eyes at it, like when you're putting lights on a Christmas tree, when you squint your eyes at it, you can kind of see where the lights are missing, and you adjust the tree accordingly. Same kind of theory holds true for a kilt. So with the McDonald clam rattle tartan that I have on now, if you squint your eyes at it, this white stripe is the thing that pops out. So the kilt would look okay pleated to that white stripe, in my humble opinion. If you squint your eyes at a kilt and nothing stands out, really jumps out, there's no super high contrast element, to me, it would probably look better pleated to the set. Now, the lawn chair effect was something that was, I started seeing it back in the days of X marks. I'm one of those who, kind of coined the term lawn chair, where if you pleat, let's say the tartan that I have on here, if you pleat it to the gray block, where every pleat vertically has just the gray block, and then, what you end up with is horizontally white stripes going across or the red lines going across, but nothing interesting vertically happening on the back of the kilt. You can have the cool effect that you kind of alluded to, where when you walk, if you pleat it to the block right before the white stripe, so that it's just barely hidden, when you walk, you get that little flash of white or a little flash of red or whatever. It can look cool in that way, but standing still, for my money, I don't like the horizontal bands across the back of the kilt. So when in doubt, pleat to the set. Every kilt looks good pleated to the set. Not everyone. Some look good pleated to the stripe, or it could be your personal opinion. You could be like me and say, look, if it's pleated to the block, which is technically a stripe, it doesn't look good. And if I made that as a kilt maker and said, okay, well, here's your kilt, because you didn't specify, I don't mind, or I don't want the block, I want a particular stripe, and I made it to the block and handed it off to you. If I got that, I'd be furious. I'd be like, nope, don't like this, take it back and redo it. And then you'd be in a fight with the kilt maker.
Yeah.
So, yes, it really comes down to personal preference. And if there's a particular stripe you want it pleated to, talk with your kilt maker about it. Or if there's a block you want it pleated to or not pleated to, in my case, then let that be known as well. So, cool. Hope that information helps. Was that you or was that Ian?
That was me.
That was you.
That was him.
Ian.
But we are getting to about 5 o'clock, and we still want to
Okay.
address the question of the day thing.
Oh,
Yeah, we
yes.
should do that.
Thank you for
We
reminding
should
me.
do that,
Okay.
Rocky.
Ian, what has the feedback been for the question of the day? Let's remind people what it is. Adam or somebody, bring that on screen. There you go. Look at that. Ian, so if you couldn't wear a kilt, what tartan accessory would you wear to represent your clan heritage? Trews, vest, jacket, hair tie, whatever. Eric, Ian, one of yous. What's the people out there on the interweb
Feel
saying?
free, Eric. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Let us know. So my friend and yours, Micah, says, I'd love some tartan pants.
Okay.
Drunken the Daron says, how did you know I wanted a 3-piece suit in Loud McLeod?
That hurts my soul.
I've seen it. I've actually seen that one.
Conlon McLaughlin says, tartan trousers with a matching vest seems like it would be a pretty smart look. Adam T. Burns wants a scally cap in Nordic Heritage Weather Tweed.
I'm going to say something about the scally cap. Let me jump in.
Go ahead.
Funny
So,
he mentions that.
yes, we played around with Nordic Heritage in a scally cap. We just got our new Killarney caps in, and which are like essentially, I think they're 8 panels, but they're like a more form-fitting 8 panel. Basically, an upgraded version of a Boston scally cap. I had Nordic Heritage and American Heritage done in the 8 panel style. It didn't look good because where they all, where the panels meet, the lines either align or they don't align. So it's either like very, very haphazard or just off, or they have to be perfect. A flat cap, not a pub cap, not a scally cap, but a flat cap with the flat single panel on top, that looks good in tartan. A scally cap or an 8 panel or a 6 panel, I personally don't like in tartan, but a flat cap with a big flat panel, yes. Okay, that's my rant. Ian, keep going.
Adam T. Burns also adds cummerbunds need to make a comeback. I'm picturing like different tartan than your kilt too.
With jeans, yes.
With jeans, yes.
Yes, of course.
Marcel Gomez says he wants to wear a Loud McLeod tartan tailcoat to the opera.
Tailcoat.
Alexander May
You're like a
talks
super
about
villain.
Tartan watch can go with anything casual to dress.
Oh, you mean like
Tartan watch.
Tartan
Yeah, yeah,
watch
yeah.
face?
Yeah.
What's
yeah,
that?
that's a good idea.
Company?
There is a company that does. I get ads for them on Facebook.
Yeah,
all the time.
McKinnon. Is it McKinnon watches?
I think that's close, but not quite.
I'm going to say
something like
McKinnon
that.
watches.
Go for
Yeah,
it.
we met them at the
Piscataway?
Tartan Day Parade.
Oh, at the Tartan Day Parade.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, they're awesome people. I've been getting ads for them. They're cool. They have watches. Andy the Highlander just did an ad for them.
Oh, okay.
I saw that one.
Yeah, I want to say McKinnon watches. I'm 89.6% positive. Yes, getting confirmation. Suck it, Ian. I'm right. McKinnon watches.
Kristen just got a promotion.
Get them out. So go buy a watch from McKinnon watches. They're cool people. They're honestly nice individuals. Continue.
William Marshall says my number 1 tartan accessory is a tartan tie. Number 2 is a tartan pocket square. He does not continue to complete the 10-part list. But
Yes, would
Pocket
you wear
square.
would you wear
Yeah.
a pocket square with the same tartan necktie?
Probably not.
Yes.
I'm not personally against it too strongly, but probably not my thing.
I'd do one or
do.
the other.
I do a tartan tie and a color.
Color
Probably.
in the pocket square to match the tie,
Yeah.
or a solid color tartan or a solid color tie that matches one of the colors in the pocket square.
Yeah, I think so.
Classy. Okay.
And then several people piped in with similar comments about ties, including Daryl Boulis and Colin
Yeah.
McLaughlin.
Tie's the low bar, easy one for that, but I'm curious that not as many people said trews or tartan pants. Interesting.
Allie
Very good.
Frazier says when I'm not wearing a kilt, I like to wear my tartan great shawl. It's great. It's really versatile, but mainly just wrap it around my shoulders and fasten
There you
with a
go.
decorative
Yeah.
brooch.
I think
We didn't-
that's a really important point. We did not talk about women's wear, and we probably should have. But yeah, there's a lot more freedom.
How
with that.
dare you? How dare you forget women?
A lot of
I
different
was
types of
going
wedding
to
products.
say, I was about to say, that is a good point. I'd like to know from the women. I want to hear from more women. Tell me in the comments what tartans you got, or what tartan accessories or parts of your outfit, your ensemble, you would wear to represent your heritage as well. We don't want to forget the ladies. Okay.
Yeah, women have a lot of wrap products like ponchos, sashes, shawls, stoles.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Let us know in the comments, boys and girls, what you would wear as a tartan accessory to incorporate heritage into your outfit if you couldn't wear a kilt. Very good. Thank you for joining us, boys and girls. Until next time, Slanjava.